Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka, and this is the AMX 1ER prototype, the Premiere. It's a hell of a good tank. It's hot as hell as well, and I was really happy when this tank was re-released because I got to drive it with this camo. Now, this camo was out for the World Cup, and it's one of my favorite camos in the game, and the tank itself is a really, really good vehicle. I'm going to break down why I like it and all that kind of stuff, but there's a couple of key things here that really need to be talked about. And if I sound a little bit echoey, it's because I'm about to get on the big bird, the big jet plane, and head off somewhere that I don't know if I can talk about yet, but I have moved my office momentarily to my bedroom because while I'm away, the builders are going to get into the space shuttle area. If you've ever seen the live streams and you've seen the silver lining in my roof, you'd know what I'm talking about, and turn it into a real big boys playroom where I actually have, you know, a wall and maybe some air conditioning for the 50-degree heat that you get up there and all kinds of things. So it's going to be cool. And some stairs, not just a ladder. But let's talk about the Premiere. It's a spectacular tank to look at. And a lot of what we like about tanks is the feel, the immersive effect of the vehicle. And it definitely has that in spades. It's a classy looking tank. I jumped in it and drove a bunch of games in it last night. Now, I also want to apologize to anyone who has sent in games. I really do appreciate when you guys send in replays, and I wish that I could feature all of them on channel. In fact, I wish I could just watch all of them, but the real truth of it is that I just can't get to all the replays and watch them all. And because of the way the client is set up, when they patch, I lose access to every replay that was sent to me prior to the patch, and it means I've missed out on some wonderful games. And it's not intentional, and I absolutely wish I could feature everyone on channel, but it's just a logistical thing that I quite simply don't get the opportunity to. And it's been a while since I featured me actually driving, so I thought, why not just drive? And, you know, it was a tank that I'm desperate to drive anyway. I mean, I seem to manage to find time to drive when I'm doing videos about tanks that I think are really, really fun. So there you go. God, I've waffled a lot here, haven't I? Let's stop waffling and let's start talking about the really important stuff with regard to the AMX Premiere. It's a premium tank. It doesn't earn a huge amount of money, but it does have a couple of things going for it that are quite noticeable. And it's a tank that actually performs pretty well versus various other tanks, but particularly against tanks like, say, I'd rather have the Premiere than the Type 61, for instance. The Premiere has 10 degrees of gun depression, like the Type 61, but it's got a much, much, much stronger turret. It has slightly more DPM. It has slightly less penetration on its AP rounds, which is fair enough, and a lot less penetration on its premium rounds, although it does fire APCR versus the heat of the Type 61. And it has slightly less alpha. So it gets 9 rounds a minute versus the 7.74 you get of a Type 61. But for all that, the Premiere has the ability to go hull down and bop people. It's pretty important. I mean, that's a really good skill. It's got enough penetration, 232 millimeters, that you can really get through things. It's basically driving. It's like if you drove the T54. And you drove the T54 with the 100mm D54 gun that has slightly less DPM, and then you put the calibrated shells on it so that it has 230mm of pen. The Premiere would have like 180 more millimeters, 180 more damage per minute with the same kind of penetration. And that's, if you like driving the T54 like that, then you'll love driving the Premiere. It's a gun depression tank, and it's a gun depression tank that, while it's not ludicrously mobile, it is very smooth. And you can see here, you'll get up to quite a reasonable top speed on the Prem, and you'll get there in a fairly solid manner. It doesn't burn mobility, but you can get to the 60 kilometers an hour speed limit pretty handily. And when you've got all the bells and whistles on it, it's 71.24 degrees of traverse on your tracks. with another 47.97 or 48 degrees of traverse on your turret. So mobility-wise, it's one of the better tanks in its tier. It's not incredible. It's not like the acceleration isn't lights out, but it's certainly a tank that combines a lot of good things. So it looks great. It's got reasonable DPM. It's got 310 alpha, so it's just like driving a blend between, say, a T54 and a Type 61. It's like a 54 with a secondary gun depression, and a slightly higher profile. Look at it when it's really moving. I mean, it's really moving. It's a great tank. And Wargaming keep releasing these tanks that are really competitive. The T55A, the Premier, Tier 10 tanks, Tier 9 tanks, the Chieftain Mark 6, that are absolutely competitive with tech tier tanks. Tech tree tanks. My God, Bushka, get your act together and stop talking about yourself in the third person. If I could have one criticism of this tank, and it's not really a criticism because, I mean, look at the mobility on it. It does work very, very well. You can see I am able to pick and choose my spots and stay aware of what's going on around me and get some shots in without really taking a whole lot of risk with this Object 704. If I could say one place where it does fall down, it doesn't have the raw power of something like a Leopard PTA, which has 2,933 DPM, which is more DPM by about 140 damage per minute, but more importantly, it has a 350 alpha gun. It's not doesn't have the hash power of a Centurion 7 Mark 1. It is very much that T54 style of play, that 310 alpha. You've got to spend some time on the target to put the shots in, but you've got the tools to do it. And it looks beautiful. I mean, I loved driving it. I really did. By the way, if you do have replays, send them to bushkagaming@gmail.com. Include the tank type, damage, and particulars in the subject line. Don't call us, we'll call you. And if I don't feature you, I apologize. I've had some people get really cranky at me. Oh, my video was better than that video. And I understand your video may well have been better than that video. But do you understand how hard it is to watch all those replays? I don't get to watch them all. I basically choose it based on the info that I have available in that subject line. Am I looking for a video on a American TD? Well, what have I got there? And what kind of damage and numbers does it do and all that kind of stuff. There's a tank that we're talking about just there, the Leopard PTA. Now, this is a great game because it highlights how I absolutely screwed up. And you're going to see why. I'm far too passive at one particular point. After being quite aggressive here, I mean, I am more than willing to get involved and take a hit and move around, and I'm quite aware of where the guys... This RU-251 is just getting in the way. I don't think he's intentionally doing it, but he is just getting in the way. We take a hit there, and then we aggressively push up again because I want to clear this flank and then roll around. And it does feel... right about now, I thought I was going to get back quick enough to not take that hit, but that was a close one. It does feel right about now that we have actually got this game in the bag. But it's a supremacy game. And if you'll note, while we're killing all these people over here, there are a couple of tanks on the red team that are just waltzing around, capping things. And that's a problem for us. And that 415 damage that I took there, that would be the SU-122-54 camping in the spawn. Now, he is basically going to have a whale of a time in this game. He's going to do over 4,000 damage. And he's doing it at this instance, doing it the right way, mind you. I'm not having a go at him at all. He's in an SU-122-54. It has outstanding DPM, an excellent gun, and a very, very average armor profile. So he is putting himself in a position where he can farm damage, and we're driving into him. But these heavies have been capping up a storm, and they've actually turned it into a very tough match. And I thought that 49 was going to bail out, but he played quite aggressively there and stayed tucked in on me. Now, you can see the Proto going through the paces here is quite lithe. It's quite capable of moving around the battlefield in a very, very cool manner and not really causing much of a ruckus in terms of mobility. It does move. I mean, I think I undersold it a little bit earlier when I was saying it's good. I think it is very good. And you get used to, say, driving a Leopard PTA or running around in the T62A and you're like, well, Is it better than those? Well, I don't think it's better. I think it's close. So then it's just average? No, it's actually very good. So, I mean, for a premium tank to have that kind of firepower, and the reason look at this. This is 5 tanks on 2, right? You'd think this is an absolute gold-plated win. But the Tiger 2 does a very good job here, and these guys drive into the bad guys and actually lose all their hit points to very underrated tanks. The 12254 I did a video on recently. Now, it is the highest DPM tank in the game, firing, standard AP. It is absolutely brutal if you give it shots. And that Tiger is, I mean, look at this. This is at 54 mod 1 is pushing on a tank that it really shouldn't be pushing on there in the SU-12254. And what you're going to see here is good supremacy work by these two, because every time they kill a tank, they get points. And I can't really get involved up there. I've only got 41 hit points left. And yet no one's gone and capped A. That RU has not capped A. He's been tinkering around there, and now we are in an absolutely horrible situation where A is going to get capped. But this guy is just going to drive out there and kill these 2 single-shot targets as they drive towards him, and things are not going to end well. And I'm pretty comfortable that if I can get a hold of him, I can clear this SU-12254. And it's not like I haven't had shots on the target, but unfortunately, he just beats us. He plays a very, very well-judged game and puts himself in a position to just edge out the win. I mean, it's so close. It really is. Man. Great game, Fisherman 97. Well played. Really, really good use of a very fine tank. Saving those hit points till the end and then just burning through them. So that's the Premier. Fine tank. Totally capable of doing many, many things to many, many people in many, many situations. Lovely, lovely gun depression tank with a much tougher turret than you expect. Great mobility and enough pen to get the job done. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm Bushka. Look after yourselves. I'll be doing some live stream Q&As over the next week. You'll find out why soon. And until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.